Okay, we're going to look at viruses in chapter 26, and I'm only going to hold you responsible to a small part of chapter 26 just in the interest of time this semester. So, viruses as living things. It's hard to consider a virus a living thing. However, it's hard to not consider them a living thing considering some of the properties that they have. So, it's said that viruses have a kind of a borrowed life. And we can consider a virus as an infectious particle consisting of genetic information in a protein coat. But remember that viruses are not cells. So they say that viruses have kind of a borrowed life because viruses are not capable of reproduction or true metabolism outside of a host cell. As we'll see in just a moment, the virus will need to actually get inside of a host cell before it can really do anything, including replicate and make more viruses. So, this is why viruses are said to have a borrowed life. Viruses consist of two main parts. The main parts of a virus are the viral genome, which is nucleic acid. In some viruses, it's DNA. In some, it may also include RNA, or it may only include RNA. But the nucleic acid sequence is there as the genetic material. So that's part one, the viral genome. The second part of a virus is called the capsid. And the capsid is mostly a protein shell that will enclose and protect this viral genome. And we're going to look at several different shapes of these capsids. Basic capsid shapes can be broken into two categories, helical or icosahedral. Now, if we look at these examples of some simple viruses, we can see that a helical virus has the capsid, the protein shell, that's sort of in a round or twisted fashion, while the viral genome, in this case, in this plant virus, we have an RNA molecule on the inside. In an icosahedral virus, we're looking at something with multiple facets or sides forming the capsid shell. And then here you can see the DNA on the inside making up the viral genome. Sometimes we see a bacterial virus, it's like this phage here, that is a combination and has an icosahedral head and a helical tail. These are very odd looking viruses. These proteins do some really unique things, and they actually, in these phages, are actually able to inject their DNA, as we'll see momentarily, into a bacterial cell. And then other viruses have the capsid on the inside, enclosing the RNA genome here, and then there is an envelope or shell around the outside. But these are the basic capsid shapes, right, made up of those proteins. Now, obviously, most of what we know about viruses has to do with them being infectious particles, meaning that they are often the source of infection of various diseases or maladies such as COVID and rabies that we're all familiar with. Viruses are very small in size. They're much smaller than the smallest bacteria. They have a very, very simple genome, and it may only consist of a few genes. But what makes these viruses so successful is that they have a particular host range. Each particular type of virus infects cells of a specific type of host. Now, viruses, because of their genome being made of DNA and RNA, also have the ability to mutate. As we'll see when we get to cell division, changes in the genetic code can be one form of mutations, and these mutations can allow a virus to expand its host range to a different or additional hosts. So if we look at this next image, we can see how viruses are sized and shaped and compare them to some simple cells. So in this image, we're looking at a eukaryotic cell, a yeast cell, again, not very large at all, but relative to a bacterium, a prokaryotic organism like Streptococcus, or a different bacterium such as this prokaryotic E. coli bacteria, the eukaryotic cell is much, much larger. But when compared to the viruses, notice that this pox virus or the herpes simplex virus or the rabies virus or HIV, etc., all of these very common examples of viruses, look at how small they are relative to this. Here's these bacteriophages that I was talking about before that almost look like little robots, and they will use this protein capsid to help inject the material into the cell.